Welcome to the Books Between Friends podcast.
3 lifelong friends,
one shared obsession.
Books.
From epic fantasy to page-turning thrillers.
We dive into the stories we love
And the ones we just can't stop talking about.
So take a seat,
Grab a drink,
and get cozy. Welcome back, friends. Speaking of cozy, my cup of cozy tonight, I'm keeping it a little low-key with just water. Ethan, what is your cup of cozy?
Mine is a lovely chai tea latte, iced chai tea latte that I'm having today. And I made my own cold foam to go on top, and it is delicious in a cup that was given to me by a former student. So, Bodhi, if you're listening, I still have it.
I love that.
Nice.
You made your own foam? What do you mean?
I sure
like,
did.
how did
So,
you do
like those little motorized, like little mixers, they're meant to foam up your coffee. So I have that, got a little cup, heavy cream, put some vanilla syrup in it, a little dash of cinnamon, and then just foam it up. And that's my cold foam.
Ooh,
I love
so
that.
good.
Yes.
You're going to have to make us some.
I have one of those and I never use it. Maybe I should.
Yes.
Well, I am boring tonight. I am just drinking water once again out of my Stanley.
I love your Stanley, so that's fine with me. Not that you needed my permission or
Thanks.
anything.
I love it too.
Right.
Y'all, you know what I was thinking about yesterday? I was thinking about, well, for one, this is the first time I feel like we've all kind of lived really far from each other. And I can't remember the last time we hung out. Well, first, the three of us hanging out, I think, has been forever ago. But
Probably
like me,
years.
It's my 30th.
right?
Yeah. Oh my
Oh my
God.
God, that's been way too long. And then me, like I haven't seen Stephanie since Thanksgiving break. And Ethan, I think I haven't seen you since the summer, and we're about to get into spring already.
Yeah, I know. It's been a while.
Crazy.
It has been a while.
No, y'all, this is not okay.
You've had a lot going on since then. You got a new job, you moved, so
That's
it's
true.
just been busy.
That's true.
Yes.
But I
Busy
am
around.
looking forward to the three of us hanging out, and I cannot wait for us to get together because I'm so excited for that, y'all.
It's gonna be so fun.
It will
Yeah, I
be a
can't
lot of
wait.
fun.
I can't wait for that. We're so excited to dive into part 5 of Onyx Storm, where we will discuss chapters 25 through 30. If you didn't catch our first 4 episodes of Onyx Storm, go listen to it now, then come back and join us for this episode.
All right, you guys. So fair warning, if you're listening to this episode, we're assuming that you've read through chapter 30 of Onyx Storm. So there will be spoilers throughout this episode. But before we dive into the next few chapters, let's catch up on where we're at in Onyx Storm. Violet and the task force managed to retrieve the citrine from Anka, but calling it a success would be a stretch. Grady and Ara both died, and to make things even worse, Theophany, the lightning-wielding Venin who's been stalking Violet, left a chilling message for her, letting her know that she can take her at any time. After the disaster at Anka, Violet confronted the Cenarium and made it clear the mission will only continue on her terms. Now that Violet is in charge, and she was able to pick the members of the task force herself, they're headed to Deverelli. While Halden meets with King Cortland to try and secure an alliance, Violet and the rest of the squad went into the market to find Narelle, the merchant her father told her to find in his letter to her. Narelle is a merchant of rare books, and she's been waiting for Violet to come and retrieve 6 tomes her father left only for her. But of course, Narelle wasn't just going to simply hand them over. Violet had to prove that she was ready to receive them by answering 3 questions for Narelle. After answering her questions and proving her intelligence, Narelle let her take the tomes, which might hold the key to finding the Irids, and hopefully a cure for Xaden. Now, we'll see if Halden succeeds in making an alliance with King Cortland, so they can continue their mission searching the rest of the Isle Kingdoms. Let's dive in.
These chapters were insane. The prince, honestly, he's getting on my last nerves. But it's expected with the way Violet has described him, and I'm becoming more and more worried for Xaden as the chapters progress. Also, as a side note, some of these chapters were giving me major Game of Thrones vibes, and it just made the anticipation of what's to come just that much stronger. Let's get into our discussion. I'm so excited. I love me some Violet and Xaden, right? Like I love their relationship. This couple, I think I've said it before, is probably one of my favorite couples. And so I was really happy for them whenever Xaden was like, "Hey, there's no magic here. There's no magic." And Violet was just not catching on. But finally he was like, "I can lose control around you now." So I was like, yes, 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 they're about to get it
So
up.
So bow chicka bow wow.
Yeah, I was really excited for this. Okay.
But like, come on. Like, are you really that dense, Violet?
Right. How is that? Well, okay. How was that not your first thought? That was literally my first
Yeah.
thought when they got to that place. And I was like, wait, no magic. That means her and Zayden can finally like get together.
yeah, I write like an end of chapter recap on each summary, and the first I was like, this chapter is all about sex, and like with an eye roll emoji that I drew in the summary, I was like, literally this. I was like, I mean, this is section what 5 that we've done now on
Yeah.
in the episodes, and I was
Uh-huh.
like, section 5 starts out with the bang. Let me tell you, a literal bang. So.
Oh man. So I love like this kind of counters one of the thoughts I had in like our last episode where I thought that Xaden was going to be kind of like Edward in New Moon where he leaves Bella and because he's not good for her and whatever. But reading this chapter and like what he says to her, I'm like, no, I don't see him leaving her anytime soon. And I don't see Violet leaving him anytime soon. Because I mean, he even says that he was like, I'm never giving you up. You know that, right? And then he even tells her, you had your chance to run. And he tells her, you should have run by. But of course, Violet, being so in love with this man, she was like, I'm never running. It's you and me no matter what. So to me, that kind of like solidifies they're in it for better or worse, kind of like a married couple,
Yeah.
right? And so now that theory that I thought he was going to be like Edward just it's not really spanning out. So I'm kind of glad though, because I really did not want to see them break up.
Yeah, totally. So I did like the conversation they were having during this moment because similar to you, Jen, I was also worried about Xaden pushing away, pulling back, and he was a little bit nervous. At one point he asked her, "Are you sure you know what I am?" And so that just shows his insecurity with what he's dealing with now, if Violet should really be involved with him. And he's also been the first one to say, when his other friends are expressing concern for her safety, he's like,
Hmm.
yeah, absolutely. They don't have to explain that to me. They don't have to apologize for it. He's also concerned for her safety. He doesn't really trust himself. But she responds like, I know who you are. And she's been trying to reassure him this whole time that she still sees him as the person that she fell in love with, and that hasn't changed, and she still is fighting for him, for them, for their relationship. And so even though it was a nice spicy moment, I do think that it was an important moment for the
Yeah.
relationship. But Ethan, I'm with you. Why did we have to break another piece of furniture?
Oh my God.
I also put in my notes, rolling my eyes hard, all caps.
Because that's
Come
how
on.
you know how good it was. Okay.
Oh my word. No, I
No,
was I
we
was
don't
a
need to
little
destroy
done.
furniture.
Yeah, no, I was a little done. I mean, I think I always sound like negative when I'm talking about how characters interact with each other in the series, but I love all of these characters. I think there's excellent character development in all of them, but I don't know. I think scenes like this, or at least the dialogue that they're having in this scene, made me realize I was like, I think I really appreciate plot elements more than I do banter between
Mm,
characters. And so I think that maybe that was just kind of like a self-discovery moment. That's
Hmm.
not true with every character relationship because to me, it's like I already know what they're going to say to each other because it's the same conversation that they've been having over and over and over again
Hmm.
yeah.
with like her with Violet and Riddick or Violet and Kat. Like those are much more interesting conversations that are being held in my opinion. But between her and Xaden saying, Vi, you should have run while you had the chance. I'm like, oh, please, good gracious, I'm over
Yeah, it's
it.
kind of
I'm
cringy.
Yes, I even like wrote cringe in my notes.
Man, you guys are killing me. Okay,
Well,
I
you
love a
know
good
that I'm
plot.
not a romance girl. I'm not a
Yes, I
romance
know.
girl. I'm in this for the fantasy element.
I guess
Well,
that's where I'm coming
so
from too, then. Yeah.
yeah, and I've always known that about you guys. Like you guys are, especially because Harry Potter is not a romance, and you guys are in it for more of the fantasy on that. I'm not saying I'm against fantasy alone. So like if there was a fantasy story that had no romance, I would still read it, but I think I would definitely put a romantasy above just fantasy, just because I do love a good romance. I do love a good love story because I do read romance besides fantasy. So I'm here for the couples. I love it. But man, the plot, like it really does. Like a lot whenever I was writing a lot of my notes, a lot of the notes were on the plots and the magic and the dragons and everything that's been going on in Rebecca's world. And instead of just focusing on Xaden and Violet.
This moment also had me thinking a lot about like their relationship and where like what their options are right now at this point in time. So, in Iron Flame, Takaris offered for them to stay at his estate where they're at now in Deverelli, and kind of just I don't know, I guess be his little pets over there in Deverelli. um, and because of how they're able to finally connect in this way, and because of Xaden's reaction to there not being any magic on the island, she's actually considering it, and they have that conversation a little bit. But unfortunately, Xaden points out to her that the dragons are in pain, they're not flourishing on this island with no magic. Besides Violet, no other writers can communicate with their dragons, so that dynamic just isn't going to work. It's almost like that little sliver of hope, and then it gets dashed.
Yeah. I know that was the first time she finally considered that. But let's talk about how Halden ruins everything.
The moment, yes. Ugh.
Seriously, man. Like here, Violet and Xaden were planning a whole night together because who doesn't want that? And Halden, of course, gets into trouble when he's supposed to be trying to help. And so, of course, Riddick comes or everybody else comes and they have to take them out of their little love nest and they have to
Yeah.
go save him because King Courtland is holding Halden hostage. So I was really annoyed with that. I
Yeah.
was like, of course, because like I said, he's been really getting on my nerves. So I was really upset that he messed things up once again. Or not once again. Is this the first time he's messed it up?
We
Well,
I
get the
guess
impression from his
so,
character that
but
he's prone to this.
yeah.
yes.
I'm just annoyed that
Yeah.
he messed it up.
It's like we could have seen it coming, like the way his character has presented so far. This was kind of expected. So yeah, in my notes I also wrote rolling my eyes once again
Oh my gosh.
because of
But I
course he's
do,
gonna ruin it. Oh, he fucked
yeah.
it up.
And of course, it has to be Xaden who goes because he's a duke. And so, King Courtland won't speak to anybody who's not royalty. And
Right.
I do like that he introduced Violet as his consort.
That moment was so funny when Taryn responded, "Are there congratulations or commiserations in order?" And I love
Um,
Taryn.
but this also has me thinking, like, and I'll get off my Violet and Xaden soapbox here in a minute, but this also had me thinking, like, I mean, can they really get married during this time? Like, we're in the middle of this war, and I don't think they're even thinking about that right now, but I would like to see that. She would be a cool
Yeah.
Duchess.
I mean, I feel like it's probably something they've both thought about, but they haven't like had a serious conversation about because they're dealing with a war
Right.
and trying to cure Xaden right now. So in a perfect world, they probably would have at this point. But I mean, and she's still a cadet. I guess they can't get married after she graduates if she gets to graduation.
So we meet King Courtland, who's the king of Deverelli. And apparently he's just as young as like Xaden and Violet. Um, He's a shrewd ruler who operates on trade knowledge and brutal consequences. So I was honestly nervous, like whenever they were walking in to meet King Cortland, I was like, I don't know what's going to happen here. I mean, there's a reason why he's holding Halden hostage. Like, what happened? And why is he known to have, like brutal consequences?
I think this is the moment. First, I'm just going to go back to like Xaden and Violet for just a second. And of course, they were interrupted, right, when they were trying to have a moment. And I was like, this is this is very similar. Like, I feel like they always get interrupted. And then when they answer whoever's interrupting them, it's always the gang outside waiting outside their door. And it's either Mira,
Actually, yeah.
Imogen. Yeah, it's either Mira, Imogen, or Rhiannon that says something quippy and witty, says like you couldn't do this on your own or something like that, and you had to bug them, and then they get to wherever they need to go. And in this case, it's going to save Halden's ass because he's apparently offended Cortland and this Isle Kingdom in some way, right? So I think this is where you mentioned earlier where this section has a feeling of like a sense of Game of Thrones. I think this is immediately where I started feeling that too. Like, okay, they're walking in, they're assessing the situation, and this looks kind of like it could be brutal. Like what are we going to expect here? So those were my initial thoughts, just like going in as soon as they walk through and see the scene before them.
This Isle is actually not the one I'm thinking of when it comes to Game of Thrones feelings, and we'll definitely get to that. But this one was an interesting visit for them, and I feel like, oh my gosh, so much happened in this one. Well, so much happens in each Isle, but this one, they have to be very careful with what they say and do. And the fact that Halden tried to like give an item that wasn't his to give away, and that's what insulted Cortland. And so I'm just like, he does not take well to liars and to thieves. Cortland finally tells Xaden and Violet what Halden has done. And not only has he tried to give away an item that wasn't his to give away, but his guard, the one that went with him, was also trying to steal from them. And so I guess Halden was trying to be sneaky and trying to send somebody to go steal from this king while he was in the middle of trying to negotiate, using Deverelli as like a common place for them to go search for and Darna's kind. And I was just like, man, that really pissed me off because Halden was only thinking of himself at this moment. He wasn't thinking of Navarre. He wasn't thinking of mankind, because they're trying to find Andarna's kind to help everybody from the Venom. He was just being so selfish and he put everything at risk. Yes. I was like, what the heck, Halden? So the fact that like he fed this guard's head to his panthers was like, holy shit, I would not want to piss this guy off.
So at first, when Cortland mentioned that Halden was trying to trade that dagger that wasn't his, I figured like, oh, it probably got confiscated or something because it was the dagger of Tyrandor. So technically it belongs to Xaden, but I just assumed that, the crown probably took it after the rebellion. And so I thought like, I don't like that's kind of a wishy-washy reason to do that. But then when he mentioned that not only did he do that, he was trying to steal from this guy's palace while he's trying to ask for an alliance. Man, I was so pissed. Like you said, Jen, he's just risking everything for a selfish reason. And for what? Like, what did he call it? Like, I forget what they were. Magic artifacts.
That's right.
They're probably not useful in any way, like at least not in the circumstances that we're in, which is war. Like, what is the point of that? It's just a purely selfish thing to do. And then, but something I caught on to while they were talking about this is that, so Halden says to Cortland when he was explaining this to Xaden and Violet that, so Cortland says that they obtained these artifacts from Navarre from over a century of trade with Navarre. But, I mean, when they first started talking about Deverelli and researching the island kingdoms, Violet had mentioned that Navarre supposedly cut off communication with these
Hmm.
kingdoms centuries ago. So it sounds like Cortland is saying that's not the case. So I really want to know what's going on there. Like, why is Navarre still communicating with the island kingdoms? What are they trading with them? And for how long? And why are they keeping it a secret?
Well, I mean, they're keeping a lot of things secret, but
Right.
yeah, like what
But there's
is
something there.
I'm interested to know what they're trading as well. Because it doesn't really seem that King Cortland wants to involve himself in this war. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't think that he is interested in allying himself with anybody.
Yeah. And Xaden tried to use the sword of Tyrandor
Hmm.
to smooth things over and restart the negotiations.
But then, of course, Halden messes that up again too because he gets really mad and he says, I alone have the authority to speak for Navarre. And that ruined everything. The minute he said that, it obviously made Cortland mad. And Cortland was like, you know what? Kill everybody except for Takaris. I'm like,
Yeah.
no! Why can you not just shut up for 1 second?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he can never shut up.
Yeah. It's something that we've said multiple times in this series so far that these characters are still babies. They're still, very young adults. And we learn that that's the case with Cortland too. Like he is also this young adult and is prone to some immaturity because of it. And I think this was an example of that, like a really rash decision.
Hmm.
But at the same time, he has nothing to prove. They need him more than he needs them at this point. So they're really at his mercy. And yet Halden comes in here, guns a-blazing and say, I'm this, trying to, like almost very Daddy Atos like, right? But this section to me does resemble a little bit of Game of Thrones mentality, just because, he stabs Cortland stabs
Hmm.
Halden with
That's
the
right.
with the dagger, right, in his
Yeah.
hand, and says, "Well, like, yep, sorry about you. You
Yeah.
shouldn't have tried, any funny business." And
Hmm.
then serves up his guard's head, his guard, on a plate for his what panthers?
Panthers.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
his four panthers to eat. So it was a very big show of strength on Cortland's part.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah. So what happens next though is kind of why I said that I've been more worried about Xaden just kind of as the chapters progress. Because, Cortland orders their execution. He's like done with this, right? Doesn't want to hear any more of it. And in the middle of all that, of course, Violet gets hurt and he ends up channeling through Violet's conduit. And so to me, that really worries me because it's like you're supposed to be on an isle with no magic. You're supposed to not be able to channel, and you still found a way to channel, which also goes to another thought too. How does Violet have power? Because I think while they were sitting down and they were trying to be like really quiet, she felt like a surge of power through her. And the fact
Yeah.
that she's the only one that can talk to her dragons on this island, like that also has me questioning, like, I remember it said on there, like, as they were sitting there looking at the Panthers, Violet reaches for her conduit just out of like habit. And then she says that she swears she can feel a hum, a swift rise in heat. So I was thinking two things. Either she's that powerful, or are the runes that her and Mira have been carrying around working? Because like remember, I still think
Mm.
that runes are going to come into play pretty importantly later. And the fact that her and Mira are the only ones who have been testing these runes, and she can talk to her dragons and she can channel a little bit into her conduit. Is that what it is, or is she really just that powerful? I don't know. What do y'all think?
Okay, first of all, I was crushed that Xaden found a way to channel even on this island with no magic.
Yeah.
That's making me think, if you turn Venom, do you just all of a sudden have this sense of, like, I don't know, almost like a magnet to any source of power? And yeah, Violet did mention when she was holding her conduit that she felt like this surge of energy. And again, she just dismissed it, didn't think anything of it, but maybe she did. Well, like obviously she did put some energy in it or
Mhm.
power because then Xaden was able to crush it and use that to channel and kill all of these guards that were trying to kill them. So I think that it's Andarna who somehow gives Violet her ability to continue to possibly wield through her and also still communicate with her and Taryn. I think that's the difference. I didn't think it
Yes.
was the runes, but I honestly forgot that they had runes with them on this trip.
Yeah. My brain went there as well. I also didn't think about runes at all, like they didn't even enter my mind, but that's really interesting. And I do think runes are going to have a bigger part to play. I just didn't see that here. This whole chapter made me think that Halden was sent here purposefully as sabotage. Um,
Mm.
and that's what I thought at the end of this specific chapter in this section. That may change later on, but that is what led me to believe that, no one can be this outright, like just non-diplomatic. Like if you are royal, like royalty, you take classes in diplomacy, right? Like you have to. That's part of it. And to be just outright non-diplomatic in this situation, to me, it just read sabotage, and
That's interesting.
which made me believe that whoever sent him there, maybe the king, whoever sent him there knows that they are going to the right place in search of what they need to find. So like the Irids, like whoever sent him there knows that they're in the right place. And so send him there to sabotage, to end in their quest right then and there. And that
Oh.
also made me believe that Andarna is the key to her still being able to use magic, because if they are in the right place, that would signal that maybe Andarna's power is kind of trying to come forth and activate in this part of the world where her family is, like where the rest of her breed is. But that
Interesting.
is a lot of conjecture and a lot of theory on my part, but that's just what the end of this particular chapter made me think of.
Ethan, I think you're onto something because why is Halden even here? He kind of showed up out of nowhere to be part of this task force.
Well, he's supposed to be the royal on hand to talk to all these different like kingdoms, right? And he's the next in
Yeah,
line to to the kingdom of Navarre. So to me, that would
yeah.
make sense of why they sent him, because it's like the government
But
trying to
okay,
have their hands in
again,
everything, right?
I'm gonna mention again my theory that King Tari is possibly Venin and at the head of this network of Venin in Navarre. And if we're going with that theory, then Ethan, your theory about Halden being sent specifically to fuck this up makes a lot of sense.
And nobody has seen King Tari. Like he hasn't come out in any of this. Like, closest to him that has really come and done any negotiations has been Melgren,
Hmm.
Right.
right?
And couldn't they just, if they need a royal bargaining chip, couldn't they just use Xaden, right? Like he
But
is the
he's
He's
only a
dude.
an
duke.
aristocrat. But the king could say, Xaden, you are
My
going to be sent
representative. Yeah.
as
But
my
nobody,
representative and speak on my behalf. Because that was the only reason Xaden was even allowed into King Cortland's palace and why he had to say that Violet was his consort.
but they still see him as a traitor and as the leader of this rebellion or revolution.
He was pardoned. He got his title back.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean they actually trust him.
Yeah, of course
Well,
they don't.
it's not the king. I mean, the king probably doesn't trust him, right? Like, or whoever, like in the continent in Navarre, like they don't trust him. But the Isles don't need that. Like, they don't
Hmm.
need to trust him.
Yeah, but I mean, how much they had such a hard time just getting Violet the okay to go to these isles, and because they don't want to send people that are not under their control. So, and again, it probably does go back to what you guys are saying, that they don't want to send people that know that are not under their control because they know that they are seeking the right, they're going to the right places to seek these answers. So, I don't think that they would just be like, oh, send Aiden in our stead and make decisions for us. Like, I still think whether or not they're Venom, they're still going to send somebody that they trust, and that's Halden, unfortunately. That's just what I think as far as like royalty goes. I don't think, I mean, they don't trust Aiden whether his title's with him or not.
Yeah,
But
never will.
I do love the way Violet saves the day. Because she always does, right?
Oh my
She
gosh, yeah.
obviously noticed that Zayden's eyes turned red after he channeled. And so she sends him off with his head down and says, oh, the Duke is sorry. Go off to Tyrandor and work on the things you need to do or whatever, negotiate things over there. And she has a plan, of course, because she always has a plan. And this reminds me of Aelin from Throne of Glass. She always had a plan.
It's true. She was always like 3 steps ahead of everyone.
Yes. And so, of course, she gets Darna to come in. And after Cortland tries to get his Panther to kill Violet, Violet's like, well, since you introduced us to your little ones, here's my little one. And then Darna comes in and has the panther in her mouth. So Violet pretty much like, we either negotiate now and your panther lives, and Darna can have your panther as a snack. I was like, oh, yes. I loved that. I love Violet for thinking of that.
Yeah. Because so before, when Xaden was trying to smooth things over, he was trying to use his sword. And then Violet also came prepared with Andarna's eggshell, which she explained to Cortland. She's a seventh breed of dragons, super rare, and this is her eggshell, so it's also super rare. And something that before they even got to Deverelli, Takaris told them that he really values rare items. King Cortland does. So she knew to prepare for this, and she brought, like, she hadn't even mentioned it at all. She just brought it out and saved the day, and also got King Cortland to pardon Xaden for what he did. So
I know, I love that. I love how she threw that in there.
thankfully all was well. No thanks to Halden.
Right. Wow.
Oh, but he got himself banned from Deverelli, so I loved that.
It's just a funny line that Taryn says to Violet that I just really love. He was like, I will not stand for you being devoured by a house cat.
Oh, yeah. That was really funny. Man, I forget to bring up how funny, or just Taryn and Andarna as characters. Like, I love their characters. I love how funny they are. And I always forget to bring that up. But, yes. So they get back to Basgiath and literally go straight into battle brief because General Atos tells them they have to go straight to battle brief. God, I can't stand that dude. I really hope something bad happens to him.
Yeah, isn't it like a 24-hour flight? And he was just like, straight to class.
I know. I'm like, who wants to go to class after that? But honestly, I'm kind of glad that they did, because this made Violet realize something, which we've all been saying it, right? So once they're in battle brief, Devera mentions that the Venin are kind of like forming, I guess, like, how did she describe it? Like how they were forming around Orisha because they knew like the Orishan wars.
Yeah. So she noticed that the front has pushed further west since they've been in Deverelli, and that they're also positioning themselves around Orisha, which means that they somehow know that the wards in Orisha are eventually going to fail, and they're preparing to attack when that inevitably happens.
Which goes back to what we've been saying. They're getting insider knowledge. And so that battle brief made Violet finally realize that. So we've already realized that as we were reading, but Violet finally realizes, like, oh my gosh, they're getting insider knowledge. How? And so this kind of goes off to what you guys have been saying as far as like who you think is giving that knowledge.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Ethan, you go first. No, you go first.
Well, I mean, we all know that I think Brennan has something to do with this. I see it like as a network of the Orange Dragon Riders, right? Like you're hanging on to the king. I'm kind of hanging on to Brennan. I don't want that to be the case. I like Brennan. I like this long lost brother that we thought was dead, but is back again. And I don't know. Something that just popped into my brain as we were discussing getting ready for this, but I was like, what if it's just Jack? Like, what if he's found some way to connect with, the outside network of Venin, and Violet would just feel terrible because she's been talking to him this whole time and kind of maybe feeding information inadvertently and keeping him alive, all for what? Like him to just be relaying all this information. But I don't see that part happening. But I was like, that would be an interesting thing. That way we wouldn't have to hate Brennan. Could still just hate Jack,
Well, I'm thinking that it could possibly be Takaris.
No.
I just don't like it being Brennan. I can see now that, it kind of fits, but I'm also kind of sus. I've been a little bit sus of Takaris the whole time. Like his character, I just feel is interesting. Like he's still an ally to the revolution and to Navarre, but I don't know. I can see it being him, potentially to gain more power. Like he's in line for the crown of Poor Miel. Maybe he's the one giving insider information.
We have to think like Violet's dad, where we don't go towards the obvious, kind of how he wants Violet to not think the obvious. And so we have to think, what is the obvious? And then that's not the answer.
I also think it could, if we do go back to Violet's dad, of course, we are under the impression that he thinks Brennan is dead by the time that
Right.
And so he writes that line to Violet in that letter and says, only trust Mira.
Mm-hmm.
But he never mentions Brennan. But of course, like taking that at face value, we were like, oh, he doesn't mention Brennan just because he's dead. But what if there's like more, like what if we're meant to read between the lines there, which would make it not obvious,
Right.
and say only trust Mira, not your brother, right?
Well, I think I mentioned that at our last episode where I noticed that when she was creating her, her squad or whatever, and I said that, I'm like, does he even know he's dead at this time? Like, why is he not mentioning Brennan at all? That's where I thought maybe your theory, Ethan, was like spot on, because he wouldn't be the obvious. He would be the one, since he's leading this revolution, he would actually no. If he's leading the revolution and turns evil, like that would be the obvious answer too, wouldn't it? Okay, we're overthinking this way too much. We need to move on.
We love our theories.
We do. I will say, just as they're back, Zayden isn't back yet because he's still trying to cover his eyes. And so when he finally does get back, I know Violet's really worried about him because his eyes don't fully return back to normal. Like she actually sees a little amber in his eyes. And so she starts realizing that they're running out of time. And there's going to come a point where he's not going to be able to hide the red eyes anymore. And Bodhi notices that too. So he suggests taking Garrick on their next trip. So now they're heading into Unnbriel.
Well, we missed the part that also while they were back at Bascaiath, during one of their signet sparring classes, one of the second years actually channeled in class.
Oh my God, I forgot about that. How did I not?
Yeah. And finally, Violet is starting to think to herself, okay, if she channeled, how many other cadets have turned? And like, who's recruiting them? There's got to be someone recruiting them,
Yeah.
Like, there's something here
Yes.
that just keeps getting glossed over.
Okay, I don't want to get into another theory. There's too much, but it would bring up the point that maybe it's not, or maybe in addition to Brennan, there's still someone on Violet's team, like Violet's close circle, that could be recruiting someone that had to stay behind and wasn't with them on that trip. Maybe that's what this second year channeler during the signet sparring is supposed to signal to us as the reader. Like this recruiting is still happening even while they're away. So who is it? Like what's happening here?
Well, I was thinking like one of the professors, like maybe Carr, because I don't like that guy, or Atos, because he's an asshole.
But also they're treating it like it's no big deal. Like his second year just channeled and then like, oh, we'll kill her, and move on. Like, no, like if you were me, I'm like, oh, another Venom? Oh my gosh. Like,
why aren't we rounding up cadets and questioning them?
Yes.
Right. Because
they just killed her and moved on.
Yeah, because Panchek was standing there and all he said was Carr. And then Carr was like, yep, on it, kills him, and then moves on. Like, they're not taking this, they don't have a sense of urgency when it comes to this. But then I thought, am I missing something or am I just like completely wrong that I thought you couldn't channel under the wards? Like, I thought that's why it's so important to raise the wards in Orisha because they would be safe from the venom. But
I thought so too.
All of these new cadets are channeling. I mean, then that would mean that Jack can channel, but he's dying unless he's being fed directly by Violet. So I don't understand what's going on. Is it just like initiates that can channel?
I wrote that down too because that was confusing to me.
So did I. So this is a good moment, listeners. If you are picking up on something that we are not, please let us know, put it in the comments or something,
Yes.
because this seems like something that we're missing, or as a collective readership, like we're all wondering the same thing. So I don't know, because that seems to be the whole point of the wards. So maybe that's going to make it even more important for runes to come in and say, all right, like, let's enhance these wards with even more specific runes or something like that. I don't know.
Yeah,
Right.
when I
Because
was reading that section, I because they're in Signet sparring class. And remember Zayden, did he put up some wards or use some runes to like make it a safe arena for them to
he used
use
wards.
their signets?
Hmm.
So in my head, I was thinking like maybe he made it like inadvertently so that they could just in this spot at Biscayeth, but I don't know. Like still, allegedly, you're not supposed to be able to channel under the wards.
Right. But she
Right.
felt like she needed to defend herself because Carr was coming at this poor student, at this poor cadet with fire and was not backing down because he's not a good professor. Let's just say it right now. He is
Hmm.
terrible. I think I've said that before though. And
Yeah.
he was like bullying her pretty much. And so she decided she wanted to defend herself by channeling. So it wasn't in a malicious way. She just wanted to be stronger. So now Violet and her squad move on to Unnbriel, and they decide that they are not going to listen to the scenarium because the scenarium wants them to fly to an isle and then report back. Fly to an isle and then report back. And she knows that they're running out of time because of Zayden's eyes. So she's like, no, we're not going to listen. We're just going to go straight to Unnbriel and search all the isles after that and not report back. So they end up taking, oh, I do love that they change which royal they're taking, and they end up taking Arik instead of Halden. So I was just like, oh my God,
Thank
finally.
God.
Yes, because good Lord, Halden almost ruined the last trip.
Yeah, and can I just say like how impressive of character development that is with I say Eric, I don't know, but with
That's how I've
him,
been saying it.
yeah, with him just being like we haven't seen his character a lot in this book, and
Hmm.
we're getting pretty far into it, but we know that he escaped, royal life for a reason, and yet he's still willing to step up to the plate and,
Right.
reveal himself to his brother who didn't know where he's been all this time. And so, yeah, huge moment for Eric. Like I was like, I don't know you very well, but I'm proud of you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I liked that scene too. And he didn't even, well, I'm sure he planned it out, but that was not the plan. They were
Right.
getting ready to take Halden. In fact, Halden and Zayden were actually going at it when Eric showed up. And he was like, nope, I'm going to be the royal on this trip because I'm not going to let you fuck this up again. And that was so good. I also really
Well,
enjoyed that.
I think that he's doing it for Violet. Like he saw how stressed out Violet was when they came back from Deverelli, and he knew right away. He knew that Holden had messed something up because he knows his brother, and he grew up with Violet just like Dane did. And so I think that he did do that. He stepped up for her, not really for the good of everyone, I don't think. I mean, he's a good
No, he
person. I'm not saying he's not a good person. That's not what I'm saying. I think that like he initially was just thinking, "Hey, I need to help Violet out."
Well, I think he actually really does care about the innocent people of Navarre
Right.
because he did mention when he had that interaction with Halden that like people are counting on this trip being successful and I'm not going to let you fuck it up.
Right.
So I think he cares not just obviously for Violet as a friend, but like for the innocent people who are counting on this being their salvation.
Right.
Yeah.
The other thing that I noticed from this little, like, right before they go off to their mission to Umbriel was that Mira was missing from the time that Violet went back to Biscayeth. And anytime she asked about her sister, they just said that she was on leave. And at
Hmm.
this point, like, I thought Mira and Violet were very solid and, like, not keeping secrets with each other. And so I thought that was really weird that Violet didn't know where her sister was. And that when they did get to Unreal, like they just had like weird tension between them. Like what that really threw me off. Like I didn't understand what was going on between them and why was Mira being so weird.
I think it's just Mira. like
Yeah.
blowing off steam, like you get these very nice journals, 6 full, like fully written journals, and I don't get anything. Like, even though Narelle said, be patient, this is your sister's moment, when she hands her, the tomes. But yeah, I think this is a little bit of jealousy on Mira's side, and this is her way of not taking it out on Violet so much, like just giving herself some space.
I also think that she's noticing that there's some kind of distance between Taryn and Sigel. And anytime she asks Violet about it, like Violet doesn't doesn't give her a straight answer. And so I think she's picking up on the fact that there's something wrong and knows that Violet's keeping a secret from her. And that's
Yeah.
probably also causing some kind of tension between them.
Well, it's funny you said that because so when you were saying like I thought they were close, they're not keeping secrets. And I'm like, Violet is keeping a huge secret. She is intentionally not telling her about Xaden being Venin because she knows Mira is the type that will kill him and not even think about it because all she ever cares about is Violet's safety. And you're right. I think Mira's picking up on there's something going on. There's something she's not telling me. But I did kind of, wonder what it is that Mira was doing on her leave because it did get brought up a couple of times and Violet was wondering what she was doing.
Oh.
I think there's definitely like some tension because of, this quest being all about Violet, but also Mira is noticing Violet is keeping some secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I thought that their start at Unnbriel was very interesting. They used themselves as bait to get the soldiers to come out. And the soldiers were like, that was way too easy. We kind of came up on you way too easy. You guys are not worthy. And then all the dragons like come out as the saying like, no, we were waiting for you actually. And so I do love that they asked for obviously an audience with their queen, and it was like a straight up no. And then Violet goes, actually, your custom says defeating your best in combat earns us entrance to court at the defeated opponent's rank. And so they have a trial by combat custom there. And so that's what made me think of Game of Thrones when Tyrion asked for a trial by combat whenever they were accusing him. They were accusing him of killing Joffrey. But I was like, oh yes, trial by combat. Here we go. I love this.
I loved it. I thought it was really cool.
So
Yeah.
this ends though on them entering the I guess like arena or whatever, and they're gonna start their trial by combat. But before they even get to that, Violet notices the blue-robed attendants that are there at the temple. And every single one of them has silver hair. And so that's how this ends. And it left me in shock because I'm like, whoa, here we go with the significance of her hair. Like we've said, there is something there. Are we finally going to get answers at Unnbriel?
Yeah. I thought that was a perfect way to end this section. I was like,
Yep.
what?
Yeah.
I was like, okay, I love all these nods to her. Like, there's more to Violet, right? Like, it's not just the mystery of her hair or, her father sending her out on this mission with his tomes that she had to find. Like, instead of getting to the cure, which Violet, desperately wants for Xaden, I think this is really just going to be about her. Like, this is truly Violet's mission in every sense of the word. But I loved this section. I thought this whole section that we've been discussing just really lent itself to more world building, and the descriptions that Portland and then this Isle Kingdom are very distinct, like they're in their description. So you can see two clearly different Isle Kingdoms, and in the way that they're decorated or their landscape. I thought that was the part that really stuck out to me. Okay, friends, that is the end of our deep dive. Now we will discuss some of our predictions and final thoughts as we wrap up the episode. I don't want to go first this time, so someone else.
So I think I mentioned it earlier. This is more of just like a thought. It's not really, maybe it is kind of a prediction, but I am not as worried about Xaden and Violet not being in game now. Like I mentioned that earlier, but I'm a little worried that Xaden having a taste of Violet's power because she's pure energy, that he's gonna want more of that. So I'm a little worried about that. You know, kind of how like vampires, when they get a taste of like human blood, they just want more. So that was my thought reading those sections. I know it's kind of dumb, but I was reading that and I was like, he just got a taste of pure energy. Like, is he going to want more of her? So that was my thought. Steph.
So last time we started talking about a potential like prophecy theory, and I'm like really running with this, you guys, especially this last chapter when they get to the Isle of Unnbriel and right before they're about to do this trial by combat with the silver hair, you know, like obviously there's some significance there. It keeps coming up. And I'm also thinking, how much time did her dad spend like writing all these tomes, researching all these islands? What for? Obviously, it has something to do with Venin and the seventh breed of dragon. And he must have spent a lot of time on this. So is Violet, you know, this savior from a prophecy that he potentially studied? And did he and his wife raise her specifically as some sort of ultimate venom killer? I don't know. I just feel like there's got to be something more here. Like, obviously, we haven't gotten into like all the details of the tomes that she recovered at Deverelli from Norel. And I feel like we're going to find out more about what is in them. This quest is going to give us a lot more backstory on her dad's trips here, his research, and what it was all for. So that's one of my theories. And then the other one is I really feel like maybe Takaris is the rat. And a couple of other things that I didn't mention before when we were talking about it is back when the first time Violet went to his palace, he somehow wrangled a venom. And I know, you know, like maybe one of the flyers helped him out with that, but like that makes me wonder, is he on the side of Venin possibly? Were they trying to kill Violet? And why would he offer his estate in Deverelli for Violet and Xaden to stay at? You know, they're the two strongest riders on the continent. And wouldn't he want them to stay and help fight this war and defeat the Venin? Why would he send them off away from this war? So I don't know. I'm really feeling like he might be the rat.
Interesting.
Same.
So from this section, I have two theories, I guess. One is that I've said it earlier, that they're obviously on the right track here, that they're where they need to be, and you know, they're meeting some resistance. So I think they are where they need to be. Part of that is because Violet still has her connection to Tarn and Andarna, where everyone else is cut off from their either griffin or dragon, which, you know, leads me to believe that yes, the rest of Andarna's breed is out there somewhere, or that because they're a seventh breed and they're special, rules of magic just don't apply to them as they would a dragon. So they're either out there and they're on the right track, or they're where they need to be to get the information to be able to find them elsewhere in the world. But she's just getting a taste of what Andarna can actually do. So that's a theory for me. And then a second theory is, do we find out, I have a hard time remembering details from like all the way back in Fourth Wing when she mentions it, but do we find out how Asher dies?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't think they ever said.
They said something about his heart giving out. They said, we didn't know Dad's heart was going to give out or something like that.
Which is a very Venin kind of draining way to go, in my opinion. Like, so as we've been talking, like something that has been ticking in my brain a little bit is, what if Brennan was the one that killed him?
I mean, if you're going with your Brennan
If I'm going with the Brennan theory,
my
what if
God.
Brennan is the one, like that was his moment, and that's why he wrote "Only Trust Mira" or something like that. Like, I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I hope it's not true, but
Oh my God.
I mean, I will say this though. Remember, Violet made a comment to Dane about the fact that Asher stopped trusting Dane's dad after a certain point. So Violet even told Dane, there was a point where my dad knew he couldn't trust your dad anymore. And so that means he's obviously clever and he knows he can pick up on a lot of things. So he was probably picking up on the fact that Brennan wasn't a good person either and started cutting him off of things as well. And that's probably why he put trust Mira only. I will say Brennan does not get brought up a lot in Onyx Storm so far.
I know. And I'm like, is that on purpose? Like to
Right.
kind of throw us off? Yeah. All right, everyone, we're going to close out this episode. Be sure to tune in for our next episode where we're going to go over chapters 31 through 36. And then also, follow us on social media. We are Books Between Friends Pod on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. So follow us there and engage with us. Have some conversation. We really want to know your thoughts.
Next time on our Onyx Storm deep dive, the battle at Unnbriel is just beginning as Violet and the squad face off in a brutal combat by trial to earn an audience with their queen. Tensions rise and alliances are tested. Will their strength and strategy be enough to prove their worth? Meanwhile, Xaden's secret is becoming harder to hide, and the line between control and corruption is razor thin. With shocking betrayals, unexpected revelations, and a confrontation that could change everything, these chapters will have us questioning every loyalty and holding our breath until the last page. Join us as we break down Onyx Storm chapters 31 to 36, diving into the twist, the heartbreak, and all the action-packed chaos.
That's a wrap for Books Between Friends today. Thanks for listening, and we'll catch you in the next chapter.